From fighting a polar bear head-on to killing a leopard, here are 15 women who have endured or accomplished the impossible. The Jammu region in northern India is a dangerous location, as it is just 30 kilometers from the neutral zone between India and Pakistan. 18-year-old Rukhsana Kaursar resides here with her family. In 2009, 7 terrorists demanding food and shelter attacked the family, and one of them desired to marry Rukhsana. Her father refused the offer, and the 3 terrorists inside the building physically assaulted him while the other 4 guarded the door outside. Rukhsana was hiding under a bed when she couldn't stomach the abuse any longer. She unleashed her rage using an axe and pierced the terrorist's body with bullets from his AK-47 that she grabbed. Joined by her 19-year-old brother Ijaz and armed with an AK-47, they defended their house for 4 hours until the terrorists escaped. They killed 1 and injured 2 more. Since the incident, the terrorist group has attempted to assassinate her at least twice, failing in their attempts, while she still walks free as a hero. Tru Thi Trinh was a female warrior who rode on an elephant while wearing golden armor and swinging 2 swords. Alive during the 3rd century, she was a Vietnamese warrior who fought against the Wu Kingdom oppressors. Orphaned at a young age, she was raised by her brother as a slave until age 20 when she escaped into the jungle to build an army of 1,000 men and women soldiers. She conquered an area of Vietnam that she claimed as her own, and by age 23, she had emerged victorious from at least 30 Wu Kingdom battles. Saint Joan of Arc was one of the few individuals ever known to have led a whole army of a nation at 17 years old. During the 15th century, Saint Joan of Arc requested a need for soldiers from the Crown Prince of France. She claimed that God sent her a vision to take back France from their English oppressors. King Charles VII obliged her request and sent her on a siege at Orleans, which she led to victory in just 9 days. Her continuous victories did not actually save her, as she was later convicted for heresy and burnt at the stake. The Pope found her trial unjust, and she was made a saint several years later. Boudica was the queen of the Iceni people of East Anglia that revolted against their Roman superiors. She is one of the few people to have her statue displayed in a city she is famous for having destroyed. She was married to Prasutagus, the leader of the Iceni people. After his death, the Romans enforced a direct rule on the Icenian Empire and seized the assets of the people. These actions, coupled with the flogging Boudica received and the rape of her 2 daughters, contributed to a widespread hate of Roman suppression. Boudica rebelled along with other tribes. She led a series of bloodlust battles, starting at Colchester. She carried out further attacks in London and St. Albans, which suffered the same fate as Colchester. Boudica finally suffered defeat at the hands of a Roman army led by Paulinus. Boudica poisoned herself to evade capture. In a time when women were not well known for their expertise in affairs of war, Agustina Domenech stood out from the rest. Born in Spain, Agustina had eyes only for the military from an early age. When she was 16, she was said to have married a Spanish soldier. Her military exploits started in 1808 when she brought apples for the Spanish troops. At that point, Spanish soldiers were pushed back and the French army was pushing forward. Agustina courageously loaded a cannon and fired at the French, who were just yards away. The Spanish soldiers were inspired and returned to their positions. Eventually, the city was captured and Agustina was arrested, but she managed to escape. She joined forces with the British Army and was promoted to captain. In 1813, Agustina pushed the French out of Spain in the Battle of Vittoria. She lived until the age of 71. Genghis Khan's great-great-granddaughter Katulan was a very skilled warrior. During the 30-year civil war conflict between her father and her uncle, she was her father's most trusted asset instead of one of her 14 brothers. Katulan was an excellent wrestler, and she was so good that a wrestling challenge was set up to find her a husband. Anybody who could defeat her would become her husband, but if the man lost, he would have to pay with 100 horses. Katulan went away 10,000 horses richer and undefeated after the tournament. Then, a cockier-than-average suitor challenged her, and he was so confident that he bet 1,000 horses instead of the usual 100. Katulan's parents approached her privately and begged her to lose the match so she could marry this man. Katulan still maintained her undefeated status and added 1,000 horses more to her stables. She died at the age of 46 and is regarded as the last great nomadic princess. Deborah Sampson grew up without a father in a very poor family. When the Revolutionary War broke out, she was keen on becoming a soldier, but girls were not allowed in the army. What followed showed self-dedication to her cause. She practiced how to talk and walk like a man to be able to gain admission to the army. After perfecting her skills to the point that even her mother thought she was a man, she enlisted as Robert Shirtliff, her new male identity. Standing at 5 foot 7 inches tall, she passed easily for a short man among her colleagues. She performed admirably in battle, completing dangerous missions. Her cover was blown due to an injury sustained in battle. She retired and later received pension until her death at age 66. Jane Crawford was diagnosed with an ovarian tumor in 1809, and this was a fatal disease in a period when medical surgery was seen as an evil experimentation. Jane agreed to participate in the surgery even though she was given no assurances about its success. Jane arrived at Dr. Ephraim McDowell's residence after a 60-mile horseback ride. The operation proceeded without the benefit of anesthesia. Only several assistants were there to hold Jane down and give her a dose of opium. The 22-pound tumor was successfully removed, and within a month, Jane returned home. She lived all the way up to 77 years of age. "17-year-old Julianne Koepke was the sole survivor of a Peruvian plane crash on Christmas Eve in 1971. The flight had 92 crew members and passengers on board. Julianne fell from a height of about 2 miles into the rainforest, resulting in a concussion, broken collarbone, and a deep cut in her right arm. She wandered through the Amazon forest without food or equipment for more than 10 days until she found a logging camp where she fell down and waited for assistance. Help didn't arrive until the next day, and the wound on her upper right arm became host to maggots. Julianne managed to remove over 20 maggots by pouring gasoline into her wounds. She was then transported on a 7-hour canoe trip to the nearest town. "43-year-old Lydia Angiou was taking a stroll in Quebec while watching her 7-year-old son play on the streets. She noticed her kid's happy expression suddenly turned to fear. This was because a 700-pound polar bear was approaching their path on the street. Fearing for her son's safety, she immediately swung into action, ran toward the bear, and started punching and kicking it. But when she saw the bear's huge size, she cried. Her actions made the bear angry, and standing on its back legs, it retaliated by slapping her face and knocking her to the ground. She persisted with her attacks while on her back, throwing kicks in the air to keep the bear away. A villager with a rifle came to her rescue and fired at the bear. The polar bear went down. Lydia succeeded in saving her child, and the governor of Quebec awarded her with the Medal of Bravery. In 1859, half Spanish Ella Hatan offered $5,000 to anyone who could defeat her in a sword match. $5,000 is the equivalent of $150,000 in today's currency. Ella went by the nickname La Jaguarina, which means Queen of the Sword, for her undefeated streak. On a certain occasion, her opponent was said to have forfeited the match after Ella hit the opponent so hard that her sword bent in half. Ella was so good that she had to retire when she had nobody to challenge her anymore. Kamla Devi, a 56-year-old Indian woman, killed a leopard with a sickle blade. Kamla, a widow, was carrying water for her crops on a Sunday morning when a leopard attacked her. She battled with the leopard for half an hour until she delivered the final blow with her sickle, at which point the villagers came to her rescue. Even though she sustained severe injuries ranging from fractures on her 2 hands to deep cuts on her head and legs and bite marks all over her body, Kamla's experience was a tremendous act of courage. Grace O'Malley, also known as Granuaile, was born in 1530 in Ireland. She wanted to be a sailor, but her father wouldn't allow it because she was a girl. Therefore, she convinced her father by cutting off her hair and wearing men's clothing. Grace was later let on the ship, which led to Grace saving her father's life. She spotted a man sneaking off to kill him, and Grace jumped on the sneaky man's back while screaming. Over the years, Grace became a sea pirate and attacked Spanish, English, and Turkish fleets, allowing her to gain more ships, islands, and castles on the coast of Ireland. Throughout her 70 years of life, Grace was an excellent leader, preserving the Gaelic ways of life despite the invasion of Ireland by England and shielding her clan from suffering first-hand from English domination. Maria Oktaya-Bruskava was fearless and courageous, which was how she received the title Hero of the Soviet Union. Before Maria became a hero, she was a military wife working as a nurse. Her life changed drastically when the Nazis invaded Russia and her husband was killed. Rather than stay indoors and wallow in grief, she gathered all her savings and bought a tank. She then gave the tank to the Red Army on the condition that she would be allowed to operate the tank. Maria only had eyes for her objective, which was to kill as many Nazis as possible for her revenge. She even had the courage to repair her tank when it broke down on the battlefield at night. On January 17, 1944, Maria went into a 2-month coma because of shrapnel that smashed into her head. She died on March 15, 1944. "19th-century China witnessed one of the greatest female pirates ever, Qing Shi. In her peak years, she commanded the Red Flag Fleet, which had over 1,800 ships and 80,000 male and female pirates invulnerable to every attack from major naval powers. She started off as a prostitute who married the captain of the Red Flag Fleet and took over after his death. She later married Chang Pao to gain better control of the Red Flag Fleet. Her piracy operations grew in large numbers, and she became invincible. Due to her success, the Chinese government raised and sent an armada against her, but she defeated them and captured 63 of their ships. The Allied forces of Dutch and British ships could not capture her after 2 years of battle. She was later offered amnesty, which she took advantage of, and she lived the rest of her days as a casino and brothel owner. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.